Hello everyone. Today I am going to explain XML schema. So first we will recall what is XML. XML is an extensible markup language. This was designed to store and transport data. This language is self-descriptive and it focuses on what data is. It is extensible, so it allows you to include the user-defined tags, unlike to HTML, which supports the predefined tags. So the content of XMLs are data. So now the question is, how will you provide structure to the XML document? So there are two ways through which you can provide structure to the XML document. First is DTD, that is document type definition, and the second is XML schema. So XML schema is more powerful version than the DTD. This XML schema can also be used for validating the XML documents. So let us see what contents I am going to cover today. So what is XML schema? XML schema versus DTD, XML schema definition, XSD, building blocks of XML schema, and XML schema example. So first we will see what is XML schema. So as I said that XML schema is used to define or describe the structure of an XML document. So as you know that XML document is a hierarchical document. So the structure should depict that hierarchy. This XML schema can be used to validate the documents which are generated for a particular company. Means the documents which are generated in a company can be checked across this XML schema and then decided whether to consider that particular document or not. XML schema is written in a XML language itself, so no need to learn this another language for writing your XML schema. One of the special feature of this XML schema is that you can add namespaces here. Now, what is the use of this namespaces? Namespaces are generally used to avoid the element name conflicts. Using namespaces, you may use same tab name with different content and meaning. And this is the extra feature which is added in a XML schema. This XML schema is typically stored as a standalone file with the extension .xsd file. Now let us see what is the difference between XML schema and DTD. As I said that both DTD and XML schema are used for providing the structure for the XML document. So, but XML schema is more richer and powerful than the DTD. So now what feature makes it more powerful than DTD? So the first feature is you can reuse your schema in another schema. Second one, you can create your own data types derived from the standard type. And the third one, you can reference multiple schemas in the same document. The another greatest strength of XML schema is the support for data type. In DTD, we have seen that you can declare the type of a data as a string, but here you can define the data type of data as integer, decimal, date, time, and string. Another great strength about XML schema is that they are written in a XML language. So you don't have to learn a new language for writing the XML schema. Now let us see the XML schema definition file. This file is stored with the extension .xsd. The first statement is XML, which denotes the XML version. On the second line, you have to include the schema tag. As I said that XML schema supports namespaces. So that's why you have to define the namespace. The namespace which is used here is XS. So this line, this namespace is defined with the attribute XML of the schema tag. So this defines the access to be the namespace described in the URL. So within the schema tag, you can mention the other elements. You can give the structure for the other elements of the XML document. Now, what are the building blocks of the XML schema? So the root of the schema is the schema element, which is qualified with the namespace always. Beside to this, it includes simple elements, complex elements, and some attributes. So what is simple element? Simple elements are the elements that will not have sub-elements or the attributes and generally contain the text values. They can be defined with the syntax access:"element. Then name attribute gives the name for that element, and type attribute defines the data type for that element. These are the built-in data types which can be given as a data type for any element: access string, access colon decimal, access colon integer, access colon boolean, access colon date, and time. So for example, you can declare an element with name, title, and its type is string. So complex element. So complex elements are those that contains the other elements. So there may be 4 types of complex element. The complex element may be empty element, or it may contain only other elements. It may contains only text value, or it may contains both the other elements, sub-elements, and text. So this is the example for the complex element. So in a schema definition, you can declare a complex element like this. So the element name is book, and its data type is not declared because I am not going to store any text value for this book element. This book is a complex type element, so that's why you have to, on the next line, you have to write a tag like access:"complex type. Within this tag, 2 sub elements are mentioned. So the first sub element of this book element with name, title, and its type is string. Another sub element is author, whose type is string. Both of these sub elements are encapsulated in a sequence tag. This sequence tag specifies the sequence of these elements in an XML document. Okay, so the XML documents which adheres to this XML schema should include the order of these sub elements which is specified in this declaration. Then you have to close the respective tags: sequence tag, complex tag, and element tag. Next component is attribute. All attributes are declared as a simple types. The syntax for adding this attribute is access:"attribute. Then name attribute will gives the name for that attribute, and type will defines the data type for that attribute. So again, the applicable data types are string, decimal, integer, date, and time. So for example, in XML documents, you want the element like this. The element name is book here, and it includes one of the attribute length, whose value is eng, and value of the book element is operating system. So if you want such a structure, then you can declare it in a XML schema like this: access:"attribute. Name of the attribute is lang, and the type of this attribute is string. So only string values are applicable for this lang attribute. For example, in this example, we have taken eng, okay, which is string. If you want integer value, then you have to write here type as access:"integer. Now, this is the example of XML schema. So, as I said, that the first statement is the version statement. The another statement, here you have to declare the schema tag, and you have to specify the namespace. Then this namespace is used throughout the schema declaration. Now the main element in the XML document will be book, which is a complex type element. So it includes the sub elements like title, whose data type is string. Another sub element of the book element is author, whose type is string. And the two extra attributes are included in this element definition, and that are minimum occurrence and max occur. So minimum occurrence of this element author is 0 and the maximum occurrence is unbounded. Means you can insert author sub element in a book element as many you want, because the maximum occurrences are unbounded. The another sub-element is publisher, whose data type is string, minimum occurrence is 0 and max occurrence is 1. Means not more than one publishers can be included for that book. The another sub-element is year, whose data type is integer, minimum occurrence is 0 and max occurrence is 1. Because the year value is integers, that's why the data type of this element is declared as integer. Now these four are the sub-elements of complex type book. And these are encapsulated in a sequence. So in a XML document which is adheres to this XML schema, all the sub elements must appear in a same order in which they are declared here. Now this book element is also includes two attributes, ISBN and price. So this attributes can be declared like this: X is called an attribute, name of the attribute is ISBN, its type is string, and a constraint is added on this attribute using attribute use. So use equals to required means this ISBN attribute is mandatory in a XML document for this book element, while the second attribute is price, whose type is decimal. So decimal values are allowed for this price attribute, and its use is optional. So use is optional means it is not mandatory to give attribute price for the book in an XML document. Then you have to close the respective tags. So this is the simple examples that I explained. Practice with more examples. Thank you.